Welcome to
Crazy, right?
A podcast
Be your own person.
for those affected by
Crazy, right?
mental health.
I wanted to just try it.
Crazy,
It's something that I've struggled with for a while.
Featuring live improvised music
Now I finally got my head right again.
by your host,
am I right? Crazy,
It feels good to talk about it.
right? Crazy, right?
Dave Asher.
My guest today is Alexia Jasmene. She is a Chicago-based trans actor, musician, comedian, poet that performs across the country and Chicago at various events, theaters, bars, and digital mediums, trying to open hearts and change minds with her seed-planting storytelling art forms. Alexia, thanks for joining me here today in my studio. I'm going to step over here to my piano. So we're rolling, and
rolling. Keep
Rolling.
rolling.
What song is that?
I believe that's Fievel Goes West. Yeah, I think so. Like, can you tell I'm a 90s kid?
I think a little bit. I feel like that song might be older than Fievel Goes West, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's definitely older than Fievel Goes West, but there was something like that. And I'm just wanting to talk about Fievel Goes West, I think. Like,
And
there's like
do you relate
opportunity.
to what? Could you, in just a few lines, could you sum up the story of Fievel Goes West for us?
Well, I'll speak in a 1930s accent if you don't mind. Gather around as Auntie Alexia tells you not about how she met your grandfather when we did the whoop whoop and the poop poop. That one you've heard many a time. But let me tell you about a little brave mouse named Fievel. Now one day Fievel and his family, well, they were immigrants to the New World, and boy, did they find out it wasn't very nice. Promised riches and dreams, and then they found out, oh wait, no one wants to give away their money because, you know, babe, that's how capitalism is. Let's make more money for the sake of more money at the expense of everything else, including environment and people. But I digress. We join our story with Fievel, who is a small mouse, and he goes west with his family. However, he gets separated along the way, going on a marvelous adventure, meeting cats, one whom becomes his friend. Because even mice and cats can get along. A story of how we're all different and yet very much the same. I mean, at this point, I guess, they are quite different because they're different species, literally, but still, we're all beings in one.
So picking up off of that, Alexia, we're all different, but we're all the same. Do you feel like that statement applies to you and your connection with struggles with mental health?
I think it does. The biggest lie, I think, with, I don't know, at least last 150 years of dehumanizing of our culture and society, telling us to like hate ourselves and not like ourselves, that we're alone and that we don't have power and that we're not in this together, has created an environment where it takes a lot of work, a lot of positivity, thinking, and gratitude especially, of rewiring the brain, of changing how you think about life and how it comes out, because we're taught not to love or like ourselves and buy the next material thing to make us happy. And that really ties into the struggles that a lot of people have, especially right now. Like, so many people are waking up to their own proverbial ship being on fire on the deck and like, oh no, what happened? How did this start? And doing the hard work of putting it out and facing that. And it's little steps, and some days it's okay not to be okay. You have mental health days, but there is hope at the end of the tunnel.
That was fascinating what you said there, Alexia, about, to me, all of it was, but particularly the model of capitalism and consumerism keeping us down in mental health wise, that the capitalist system relies on people struggling with their mental health and using retail therapy to feel better about themselves, to consume.
Or Band-Aid therapy.
Band-Aid therapy. What do you mean by Band-Aid therapy?
That instead of actually treating the cause, it's just treating the symptoms. Slap a Band-Aid on it and it'll be fine. But if there's, a lot of internal bleeding, that's not gonna do.
Have you yourself ever had experiences where you've been dealing with your issues with Band-Aid therapy?
Yeah. Especially when getting into my own journey of trying to heal my own mental health and embrace that and be present and really try to grow from it and heal from it, because there's a thing called a spiritual bypass where you start to make some progress with, I do loving awareness meditation with Sharon Salzberg or Tara Brock. They're a great resource. And Ram Dawson Friends for Bhakti Yoga. Yoga with Adrian does it a little bit on YouTube. And these practices help open up the heart. And then I've had many times where I've had just a little bit of progress. And then I was like, cool, all good. I'm an enlightened being. I am awakened. I'm good. I am now there. Everything is one and perfect, without embracing the fact that there is joy and pain, that there is all of it, and letting go of trying to control and making everything always okay creates a lot more suffering, because trying to achieve perfection, if that makes sense, which, I don't know about y'all, but boy, did I get that message a lot whenever I was in school.
The message that it was important to be perfect.
Yeah, the perfect grades, the perfect job, the perfect car, the perfect house and picket white fence, all that stuff. And we're in this unique and transformative time that's not easy or fun or fair. But we have this opportunity, and a lot of people are taking it to rediscover what it is to take care of themselves and others and create community, and we're in this together. That's cool. And it's gonna take time because we're not used to it. Well, most of us aren't.
Would you take me back, Alexia, to anywhere along the line in your journey, whether it is from issues of gender identity or suicidal ideation? What comes to mind based off the question taking me to a low point for you?
Well, I think in order to do this properly, we need to go into the past. So many cartoons. Okay, that was fun. I can't help but be cheesy and just go along with the songs that you're playing. This is lovely, by the way. Just as a side note, thank you listeners for being here with us. I'm all over the place. I am an actor.
We were going back to the 90s apparently. Is that where a low point is, or is that where the sound effect for flashbacks live?
That's where the story lives. We're gonna do a nutshell with pauses and breath for you to ask questions, so that way it doesn't get too one note.
How does it start?
So, I was 4 years old, during nap time at my grandparents' daycare. It's really my grandma's daycare, but my grandpa helped run it. He was a local politician in Northeast Missouri, small town. And I was playing with this other kid, and we were doing dress up, and we were wearing dresses, and he was like, I'm a girl. And I was like, I'm a girl too. And I was like, oh, I am a girl. And something in the back of my mind was like, oh, don't you dare tell anyone, that is not safe. And in retrospect, it wasn't in the community.
Where are you?
Kirksville, Missouri, Northeast Missouri. Small town where people around Hy-Vee breakfast, that's like the local grocery store, would say not so nice things that were racist and homophobic and transphobic. And so I knew at a young age it wasn't safe to talk about that. However, my life was fine until kindergarten. At the end of the first semester, I was been playing with the girls a lot during the half day, because it was the 90s, so I guess we did half days. And they said no boys allowed, and then the boys were like, no girls allowed. And because it was the 90s, they let us play with hammers, saws, and nails. And I went over to that area away from everyone, and I just had the hammer, and I was just like pounding this nail, and I hit my thumb, and I just started like feeling so overwhelmed and crying. And it was the first time that I had the thought that I don't deserve to exist. And the thought of using that hammer on myself went through. That's how young it was when suicidal ideation came into play, of feeling othered. I also have severe ADHD and did as a kid, diagnosed, and was on Ritalin from the age of 3 to 10. It helped a lot with structure, so I was also a lot.
What was your relationship like with your folks?
So my dad wasn't really in the picture. My mom was a single mom, RN, working her butt off, but we did always live in poverty. I have so far in my existence, but have learned to embrace that in a positive way and get out of that poverty mindset that's very not good for your health. And I was raised a lot by my grandparents, and they weren't always the most supportive. And there.
And you would describe yourself, I believe, as a musician and comedian. Is that correct?
Actor, musician, comedian, poet. Wouldn't you know it?
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did that pithy phrase? How did that pithy phrase come about?
That came about like within the last 2 years.
And then going back further, maybe perhaps to this childhood we were speaking of.
Yeah.
When did you first get the inkling to be a musician or a performer, comedian, etc., poet?
Music was about 15 whenever I started playing guitar and singing. Mostly because my best friend was doing it, and I was skateboarding before that. I'm a skateboarder, helped get a skate park in high school. That's another story for another day. But, I guess something that's important to note is when I was 9, I had allowed my emotional abuser into my life, and because I wanted my mom to be happy. And then he unleashed all of his trauma and pain on me one day, and it really traumatized me deep.
Is this someone your mother was in a relationship with?
Yeah, it's my little brother and sister's dad. I have forgiven him and have grown and healed through a lot of different practices that I mentioned earlier, like the meditation and Bhakti Yoga with the loving awareness, and therapy. EMDR was wonderful. It's rapid eye movement, and whenever it's doing that, it activates the left and right hemisphere of the brain. Right hemisphere is where your emotions and spatial awareness and trauma live, and the left is where more logical imagination and rational reasoning can. So it creates a temporary bridge, so that way your imagination and thoughts can come and like keep your trauma company and help face that and heal it, so it's not as tough. It's still tough, but it doesn't like overwhelm your nervous system too much. So I got traumatized, and what I like to call is deep undercover. All trans people are undercover, and I went a little too deep. Just like oh man, maybe you can help me out. The Departed.
Ah,
Yeah,
great movie.
yeah, that's kind of deep undercover I was, because I'd forgotten who I was because of the trauma.
Are you open to getting at all specific about this trauma?
Sure. And that is because I have done the work and have healed from it and moved from it and have come to a place where I actually love myself and my life. And it was not easy and takes a lot of work, and some days I thought I'd never get there. And then some days I forget I'm there. So it never changes. The journey continues. Or it always changes, I should say, I guess. However, what happened was my mom was at work or something like that. She was pregnant with my little brother and sister who were twins. They were almost on the way. And I guess he just got drunk, and he had this like beagle named Barney, which of course reminded me of Barney the dinosaur that I saw growing up. And he's just this fat, like a sausage beagle. And he was just a sweetheart and loved me a lot. And he just started, I was acting pretty effeminate, like playing with Barney on the ground, like rolling around and stuff. And then he just came up to me, and it is hard to fully put it together, but this is the narrative that I've put together from all the visceral sounds and stuff, because traumatic memory isn't necessarily a story, a narrative. And that's something you can put together after healing or during that could be helpful, but it's not necessary for healing. Loving yourself and forgiving yourself is. And he had a lot of trauma and a lot of bad experience and was drunk. And so he did not physically hit me or abuse me, but he unleashed a lot of very, very vitriol things that, to be honest, I really don't remember what he said. I know faggot was in there and like piece of shit and like stuff like that, but it made me freeze, like fight. You do fight, flight, or freeze. And so the reptilian brain kicked in, freezing, the amygdala like flooded me. His dog didn't know what to do, and like my mom could tell something was wrong. And then 2 weeks later I was at my aunt's funeral and I couldn't feel anything. And I felt like there was something wrong with me. And then I was playing Killer Instinct, and she'd worked at Toys R Us, and I just started bawling because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get Christmas gifts, and I felt like, honestly, a piece of shit for crying about freaking Christmas gifts like my aunt had just died. And my cousins were super sad, and she was such an amazing human and was so loving towards me. And I think my mom knew something was wrong, but I didn't have words for what had happened, because he also threatened me to not tell anyone. And I was 9. I was a kid, and I'd already had a lot of people emotionally bullying me for being more feminine. I mean, I was a girl. And so that caused me to hide myself from myself. And I did it so well for so long, I had the whole world playing along. And when I was 23, push came to shove, and it was either live my truth or not live. And
So you did
I
not
chose to live.
You did not identify you did not come out to yourself as trans until you were 23?
Yeah. And everyone else, pretty much all at the same time, because the trauma I'd compartmentalized and buried so many parts of myself that it's taken a lot of work to really put all of those pieces back together.
That's really amazing story you've just told. Just to get the room current here. So you had this traumatic experience brought on by you expressing your femininity playing with a dog, correct?
Yeah, and inadvertently brought it on to myself by not listening to my intuition and wanting my mom to be happy over my own happiness, because already believing I don't deserve to be happy.
And I'm hearing too that the stepfather was lashing out against a young boy behaving like a girl.
Yeah, and he never liked me, and he had his own kids on the way, so he was a shoo-in, and I guess just...
And so you denied yourself your truth in order to conform to this man's expectations or definition of you in order to please your mother's will, so to speak. Am I getting the gist of it?
Partially. However, if I had have said, when my mom asked if it was okay if he stays around, if I had have said no in that moment, she would have broken up with him and he would have gone out the door, because that's how much my mom loves me and cares for me. And when I did come out, I believe it was 2014 in October, maybe it's 15. Time is weird, but I came home for a month. I was living in China at the time, and in that month I came out to everyone, traveled around, and got hormones, a therapist. And on Christmas Eve I was dressed as myself for the first time. I'd gotten fake boobs because I didn't have any, obviously, without hormones, though. I seemed to have started to grow some. Interestingly enough, as soon as I accepted myself, my body was like, we're ready. Okay, you're finally listening, come on. But I digress. That's me, tangents. And I woke my mom up. It was 3 a.m. and I was wasted on cheap Boone's Farm wine, which was the worst mistake ever for the next day. And but I was like, this is me, I'm your daughter. And she just got teary-eyed and said, why did you never tell me? We would have moved somewhere so you could have lived your truth. And then that made me bawl because I had no idea. And the pediatrician I had, in retrospect at the time, was basically Mr. Rogers. He was that awesome. And kind of looked like him too, and wore a sweater. And could have happened. And for a very long time, that what if game comes in. And it can be useful to imagine different scenarios and let yourself viscerally feel that. But I finally have gotten to a point where I'm like, yeah, but if that had happened, I wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast with all these lovely listeners and the piano, probably even pursuing art.
Tell me a little bit about your pursuits with art. What have you got going on project-wise?
I wish I could say a whole bunch. I do hit up a lot of music open mics around town and comedy open mics. You can catch me at Gallery Cabaret a lot, Moe's Tavern, Cole's. Those are some of the places I frequent. And I also write a lot of poetry, and sometimes I get to perform at different events. And currently, for theater, I'm mostly just doing staged readings because I'm trying to pursue TV and film, and that is taking a little bit longer than I was hoping, but auditions are coming down the pipeline. I have an agent here now and a manager in LA, and gonna try to cash in those chips by like April next year at the latest. Like, get out there and all that jazz. Hey, this podcast.
Well, speaking of this podcast and performing, I was wondering if you would give us a little bit of poetry, perhaps an improvised poem. And a topic potentially about if you could speak to agents out there on Chicago or any of the coasts, to give a little bit of the Alexia experience. There could be comedy in it. There could be a breakdown where you're potentially singing a melodic hook. But even if it's the musician, performer, comedian, poet, and I know it, even if that's the basic title of this, could we have a little bit further down that business card where the fine print is explaining yourself in a little bit of a bluesy beat poetry style? This is who I am, and this is what I bring to the table.
Of course. I was just gonna do a poem, and then I forgot there was music involved, and I'm like, oh, yeah, please, thank you.
Let's improvise.
But before that,
Let the record reflect Alexia is having an Altoid.
an Altoid, I am doing extra crinkling because... Oh, what do you call that? ASMR. Is that lovely crinkling? I have friends who do like that, and I respect. It's just crinkling. Ferment is a hilarious theater joke. It's the most annoying thing. You're in the most serious scene of the play, and you're about to open hearts and change minds, and then some old person is just like fiddling for 5 minutes with a mint.
Could we possibly have that as our song, as our poem? The mindset of the actor when it's like, basically, it's a serious moment, and then, oh fuck, it's happening again. You know, something like that.
The story goes and flows within all of our veins, an effervescent glow, wondering where we go, cartographers bringing back pieces of maps so we might know where we go and where we've been, who we are, and are the collective one, and we, the we, from me to we. Those moments when you feel the presence flowing, the scene is growing, the drama, the conflict, the story growing until it's just about there. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to the climax of the scene, and we're gonna find, yeah, we're gonna find the meaning of life, and then we're gonna, fuck, it happens again, the crinkling. Devil horns sprout out of my head as I begin to want to rip out the white, cis, heteronormative 70-year-old man's eyeballs through his ears. I don't know how, but I would. Maybe because they're connected to the brain. I will say, I was going to say medical terms here, but I don't want to sound like a fool because I do have friends who are doctors after all. But then we calm down, and the crinkling seems to have stopped for a moment. We get back into the moment and the scene, and just letting the flow go. confessing. Raindrops fall on the light, wondering if can't you see that there's something here, stealing melodies from popular songs, but we're going.
I walked across
to get there. We are inside each other's present moment, connecting, making a map, and then you wonder what we're about to discover. The beauty builds inside. You wonder how you could have hid or ever hide. And then the unthinkable. Someone's phone fucking goes off in the audience. How dare they! I must now rip off their heads! And this is where I actually stand up and break the fourth wall and say, hey, you! Yeah, you, with the dumb glow screen on your face, and you over there. Put the fucker away, okay? You are in a space of divine art! The same would go for music or poetry or even a comedy. Like, you have your fucking phone off. You don't want to ruin the moment, especially in a play or a musical, whenever things are about to connect there and you're about to have this big discovery, and then your phone just had to get in the way. So you, sir, sit down. Be quiet. Where was I?
That was beautiful. So
And
much
that
fun.
is the experience of the most frustrating things that can happen as an actor. Candy wrappers and phones going off. Oh, goodness. That is a nice alarm. Like, I literally opened up my phone to do alarm stuff, but it is on silent. Because I know better.
Before we started, and
Yeah.
I want to nearly wrap this up, but you mentioned something. We were just chatting beforehand, and folks might or might not know, I don't really do much research on the guest beforehand. We chatted for about 5 minutes. We made a makeshift tea bag so you could have some caffeinated tea.
Coffee filter, tea grounds, and then a rubber band.
We were
For anyone out
basically
there.
MacGyver.
Yeah.
And you said there's another podcast that very sort of conversational flow, and then at the end there's this question, do you believe in God? So I want to throw that to you, Alexia. How do you feel about God or spirituality? Anything ranging from your thoughts on organized religion to spirituality, or to even an access that somebody with a mental health concern or illness or diagnosis, how they might interact with a higher being as well. Any or all of the above.
Well, first, that is from Pete Holmes on You Made It Weird. He has a lovely podcast. I highly recommend it. And excellent question. And it's not just God. It's, like you said, spirituality, all that stuff. Do you believe? Don't you? And I'm very hippy-dippy and woo-woo at the core of who I am. I'm very into spirituality. Part of me is into Hinduism through Ram Dass and friends, as I call them. And there's friends like Sharon Salzberg that I mentioned earlier who are Buddhist teachers. And they teach loving mindness, loving awareness, meditation, not medication, that shows that compassion is the thing we're lacking in mindful practices. And having compassion for yourself is what recharges and allows you to rewire your brain for positivity. That's what positivity psychology has found, neuroscience is discovering. So I do believe in science, and I believe in Buddhism, Hinduism. I believe in Jesus, especially when you put in all those Gnostic Gospels. I'm kind of all over the place and spiritual, and like to learn about neuroscience and how rewiring my brain can help a nervous system, because I was in fight or flight mode for like 20 plus years. I'm now learning to be more relaxed and more open, have an open heart, and it's been a lot of work, and yoga helps with that too, because it allows me to embody my body safely and feel good about it and activate all those muscles. And it's a lot of fun things. So I honestly have no idea how to surmise myself, because I like listening to a lot of smart teachers who are connected, and some of them are Christian and Buddhist and Hinduist, and some are into the occult. And I'm like, okay, I'm here to listen by all means necessary to continue to like grow as a human and continue to heal and love my life and be grateful for all of the good and the bad, because it's created me who I am in this moment.
Alexia, thank you so much for joining me here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again to Alexia Jasmene. You can follow her at Alexia Jasmene on Instagram, Facebook, or her website, alexiajasmene.com, and catch her around the city at various open mics and events such as Gallery Cabaret, Cole's, Moe's Tavern, Les Fest, Outspoken, and many other events. All the best, Alexia. It's been a pleasure. That wraps up this episode of Crazy Right with Dave Asher. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider writing a review or rating this podcast. And of course, we would love it if you subscribe. I'm Dave Asher, and I'm glad to be here.